It's Bible thumping time. Let's go. All right, we're going to talk about the story of Jonah and the whale. Jonah and the whale. Let me get my folders open. I got a couple, and then we're gonna do some deep, introspective look at this. I wonder if Jonah is the smallest book in the Old Testament. It might be. It's only 4 chapters. Oh, Obadiah. Oh yeah. So all of the 12 minor prophets, all the books are small. Jonah was one of the 12 minor prophets. The basis of the story, he's going to warn Nineveh, the city of Nineveh, that the wrath of God is coming because of their wicked ways. God sends Jonah, which is one of the 12 minor prophets of the Nevi'im. Obadiah, Nahum, Jonah, Ezra, Nehemiah, I think maybe Malachi. All those little books at the end of the Old Testament, those are the 12 minor prophets, right? I don't think Isaiah is one of the major prophets, Solomon is a major prophet, David, Daniel, but the 12 minor prophets at the end of the Old Testament, Jonah is one of them. We did Ezra not too long ago. Now we're doing Jonah. So God sends him to Nineveh. The book's writer is anonymous. And Jonah is the son of Amittai. And Jonah's mentioned in 2 Kings 14:25. We'll get to all that. We'll read all those verses. But it dates him during the reign of Jeroboam II, which is 786 to 746 BC. But scholars believe the book was written much later. Some say the late 5th or 4th century. Some say as early as the Hellenistic period, which is the 3rd to 2nd century. So the author being anonymous, and it was written much later after Jonah's life, tells us that Jonah isn't writing this, right? So that helps us understand the writing of it. Chapters 1, 3, and 4 are all told in narrative. 4 has a little bit poetic, but 1, 3, and 4 for the most part are written as a narrative. Basically, it's telling a story. Chapter 2 starts and ends in the narrative sense, but the majority of it is a prayer from Jonah while he's in the belly of the whale, and it's written from a poetic stance. So we'll get into what that means and how, when you understand how to read the Bible and you understand what's narrative, what's poetic, what should be taken literally and what should not be taken literally. Some of it should be taken metaphorically because it's metaphor. So we'll get into all that stuff. Let me open up my articles and then we'll bust open this Bible. And then at the end, we got a bonus. We're going to do a little extra Bible thumping. So I think first I'm going to go to 2 Kings. First I'm going to go to 2 Kings. Oh, I didn't highlight it. What's the verse? 14:25. 2 Kings 14:25. So this is the first mention we have of Jonah. This is what places him in his life during Jeroboam II. Again, 786 to 746 BC. It says, he restored the coast of Israel from the entering of Hamath into the sea of the plain, according to the word of the Lord God of Israel, which he spake by the hand of his servant Jonah, the son of Amittai, the prophet, which was of Gath-hepher. Okay, so that's 2 Kings. That's when Jonah's first mentioned. Now we're going to jump over to the book of Jonah. And we're basically going to read the whole story, and I'm going to stop occasionally. And I have notes that I've taken right here. And this is my show writer, I had to fire my cameraman and my script writer and my show planner, and we had to downsize. And so it's all me. This is all me. Whenever I do my Bible thumping, usually this space is not very full because I just write a few notes, but when I do my Bible thumping, I take serious notes, okay? All right, notes of Jonah, mostly a narrative. I already explained that. All right. Jonah, Old Testament, chapter 1. Now the word of the Lord came unto Jonah, the son of Amittai, saying, Arise, go to Nineveh, that great city, and cry against it, for their wickedness is come up before me. But Jonah rose up to flee unto Tarshish from the presence of the Lord, and went down to Joppa, and he found a ship going to Tarshish. So he paid the fare thereof and went down into it to go with them into Tarshish from the presence of the Lord. So Jonah is running from God. He's running and hiding from God. He sends Jonah to warn Nineveh. Nineveh is a modern day Iran, Moshu, Iran, and he's warning them of the problems of their wickedness. And Jonah runs. Now, let's get into a little historicity lesson, because I don't know if he's here. Freddie, are you here? We usually have a high-level troll. He's a dedicated troll, and I appreciate him, and I respect his trolling. And he says he's a pharaoh. He says that, all of the Bible is plagiarized and it's all a lie and none of it's true. So let me just give you a little historicity on the city of Nineveh. So this is the Tigris and the Euphrates River. This is called the Fertile Crescent. This is where it's assumed that the Garden of Eden was, Mesopotamia. And Nineveh is this little dot right here. You guys can't really see it because it's not that big. But we have the chronology of Nineveh. Nineveh, Assyrian Ninau, was an important city in ancient Assyria. The exceeding great city, as it is called in the book of Jonah, lay on the eastern bank of the Tigris, modern-day Mosul, Iraq. Ancient Nineveh's mound ruins are located on a level part of the plain near the river with an 1,800-acre area circumscribed by a 7.5 mile brick rampart. This whole extensive space is now one immense area of ruins. If Jonah is referring to what some scholars call Greater Nineveh, the term could include the region around Nineveh proper with a 60-mile perimeter, including Kuyunjik, these are tough words, Khorsabad, and Nimrud. Situated at the confluence of the Tigris and Kosar, Nineveh was an important junction for commercial routes crossing the Tigris, occupying a central position on the Great Highway between the Mediterranean and the Indian Ocean, thus uniting the East and West. Wealth flowed into it from many sources so that it became one of the greatest of all ancient cities. What's interesting is that I believe Nahum, Jonah, and there's one other book. There's one other book in the Old Testament that all foretell of the falling of Nineveh, that Nineveh is going to fall. Well, Nineveh sure did fall. So the first settlement was in 6000 BC. In the second and third millennia BC, Nineveh is a religious center devoted to, among other gods, Ishtar. They were worshiping Ishtar. In 9th century BC, large architectural projects started in Nineveh with the initiative of rulers of the Assyrian Empire. 705 BC, King Sennacherib establishes Nineveh as the new capital of the Assyrian Empire. Construction workers started together with the building of the largest palace of its time, which is 42,000 kilometers large with at least 880 rooms. In 650 BC, under King Ashurbanipal, the new palace is constructed together with a large library. And then it falls. Best known from a library, successor held the Assyrian throne, and death becomes the king and summer Chaldean leader. Sorry, I'm looking for something. Okay, 612 BC. Ashurbanipal's successor held the Assyrian throne, and at his death, Sinshar-Ishkin became king in the summer of 612. Nabopolassar, a Chaldean leader, aided by Medes and northern nomads, attacked, looted, and destroyed Nineveh, an event that marked the crumbling of the last vestiges of power in Assyria and established the foundation of the Neo-Babylonian Empire. There is some evidence that the defeat of Nineveh was the occasion of rejoicing in Judah, although the Assyrians established a new capital at Haran. Within a few years, Haran was conquered by the Medes. So, we know Jonah, Nahum, and one of the other 12 minor prophets all speak about how Nineveh is going to fall. And this takes place between, 800 to 700 BC is when they're saying this stuff. Then in 612 BC, remember in BC time goes backwards, so 612 is later. 612 BC, sure enough, Nineveh falls. Nineveh falls, just like the prophet said it would. And not to mention in Matthew and Luke, both, they talk about the fall of Nineveh and how the prophets foretold it. They reflect on the story. Now, that takes place in AD, the first 30 AD. So The historicity of the Bible is there if you just look. There's also architectural historicity. You know, if you do a little research, you can find out that this is a historical book. This is a historical document, just as much as any writings about Alexander the Great are historical documents. So if anybody ever tells you this book's fake, it's just a bunch of fairy tales, this is one of the most um, most read, most interpreted, most translated books in all of history. I would say it is the most scrutinized book in all of history, and the historicity is there. So don't let anybody tell you that. But you know, we got the archaeology, we got a lot of pictures, but there's just a little historical stuff. Biblical in the Bible, Nineveh is first mentioned in Genesis 10:11, which is rendered in the revised version. He, i.e., Nimrod, went forth into Assyria and builded Nineveh. It is not again noticed until the days of Jonah. We're going to get into that. Nineveh was the flourishing capital of the Syrian Empire. The book of the prophet Nahum is also almost exclusively taken up with prophetic denunciations against this city. Its ruin and utter desolation are foretold. Its end was strange, sudden, tragic. Nahum 2:6-11. According to the Bible, is God's doing, his judgment on Assyrians' pride. In fulfillment of prophecy, God made an utter end to the place. It became a desolation. Zephaniah, that's the other one. Zephaniah also predicts its destruction along with the fall of the empire of which it was the capital. Nineveh's exemplary pride and fall are recalled in the Gospel of Matthew and Luke. So that's what I just said. All right, let's get back to the readings. We'll close that article out. We got one more article to look at that I will pull up in the middle of the in the Bible reading. But let's keep going. So picking up at verse 4, but the Lord sent out a great wind into the sea. So Jonah's got on the ship. He's fleeing to Tarshish. He's running from God. God told him, you need to go to Nineveh and you need to tell them, warn them of my wrath because of their wicked ways. And Jonah didn't want to do it. He tried to run from God. And we've seen this many times. It doesn't work. You should not run from God, okay? But the Lord sent out a great wind into the sea, and there was a mighty tempest in the sea, so that the ship was like to be broken. Then the mariners were afraid and cried, every man unto his God, and cast forth the wares that were in the ship into the sea, to lighten it of them. But Jonah was gone down into the sides of the ship, and he lay and was fast asleep. This next verse is interesting. This is verse 6. So the shipmaster came to him and said unto him, what meanest thou, O sleeper? Arise, call upon thy God, if so be that God will think upon us, that we perish not. He said, arise, O sleeper. I found it interesting that the shipmaster calls Jonah sleeper. He's sleeping. He's asleep. He's not awake. He's not paying attention. He's running from God, and he's asleep. Sleeper. You know how we talk about the awakening, and we talk about being awake, not being woke, because everybody's grumpy when they're woke. You don't want to be woke. If you're sleeping, you're peaceful, but you're ignorant, right? You're not conscious. But then when you get woke, if somebody comes and shakes you and you're woke all of a sudden, you're woke up, somebody woke you up, you're going to be upset. You're going to be grumpy. You're going to be stupid. You're going to be foggy. You're going to be cloudy. So when people on the left talk about we're woke, you know, you don't want to be woke. Nobody want to be woke. You don't want to be woke. You want to be awake. You want to have a couple cups of that Folgers. Best part of waking up is Folgers in your cup. You know, you want to be going into your day. You want to be awake. You don't want to be woke, and you don't want to be sleep. But he calls Jonah, O sleeper, arise, call upon thy God, if so be that God will think upon us that we perish not. And it's interesting that when it says that they're praying to their gods, it's a lowercase g. When he talks about pray to your God, it's the uppercase G. It's that uppercase G. Okay. He calls Jonah sleeper, and he has faith that God can save them. Now I wrote lowercase G because all these men on the ship, they have faith that somebody's God is going to save them. So even though they're following false gods, they still have faith in God. It's not like modern day atheism where they even though they say they don't believe in a God, they don't have a God, they do have a God. Everybody believes in God, whether you like it or not. You can try to deny it all you want, but when ish hits the fan, When you're in a foxhole, when you have terminal cancer, everybody coming to God, one God or another God, whether it be a lowercase g or uppercase G. And these guys on the ship, they knew that a God could save them. But Jonah knew that God could save them, but he was running from God. So he was hiding. He was sleeping. He was a sleeper. So verse 7, and they said, everyone to his fellow, come and let us cast lots. This part's interesting. That we may know for whose cause this evil is upon us. So they cast lots, and the lot fell on Jonah. Casting lots is like pulling straws, kind of like gambling. Um, Later in the New Testament, after Jesus died, the soldiers cast lots for his clothes. You hear lots of cast lots mentioned in the Bible. What it means is basically like pulling straws. So you have a bunch of short straws, you have one long straw, and you're pulling straws. This is supposed to be entirely random. But this is very interesting. Verse 7, they cast lots to see who was causing this problem on the ship. And sure enough, who got the lot? Jonah, because it was Jonah's fault. What that tells me is that nothing happens by chance. There is no chance. God knows how things are going to go. God already knows. There's no chance. There's no, maybe you guys would disagree with me about this. I'm not a Calvinist, but I do agree with the Calvinist idea that there's no such thing as free will. Because if you could freely will, if you had free will, you would never will yourself to do the wrong thing. You would only will yourself to do right. When Paul says, the things I want to do, I can't do, and the things I don't want to do, I do. If he had free will, he wouldn't have that problem. We don't have a free will. We're either doing God's will or Satan's will. We're either influenced by good or we're influenced by evil. God knows what's going to happen. God knows what choice you're going to make, what choice you think you're making, but you're actually not making a choice. So this is further proof that there's no random happenstance. Everything happens for a reason. God knew what was going to happen. They pulled straws at random to see whose fault it was, and it fell on Jonah. Sure enough, Jonah was the cause of it. They didn't even need to cast lots. They cast lots, and the lots fell upon Jonah. I find that intriguing. Verse 8, then said they unto him, tell us, we pray thee, for whose cause this evil is upon us? What is thine occupation, and whence comest thou? What is thy country, and of what people art thou? And he said unto them, I am a Hebrew, and I fear the Lord, the God of heaven, which hath made the sea and the dry land. Verse 10, then were the men exceedingly afraid, and said unto him, why hast thou done this? For the men knew that he fled from the presence of the Lord, because he had told them. Verse 10, I tie that to every knee will bow. As soon as Jonah said, I am of the God of Abraham that made the land and made the sea, the men got down on their knees and they were afraid. They had fear for God. We've talked about how there's 12 different words for fear in the Hebrew language. And this word that they're using is reverence. It's not a fear. It's not a fear like when a bear's coming at you in the woods. It's not that kind of fear. It's not that fake fear. It's a real reverence for God. It's the fear a father has for their son when they do something wrong. And these men who were worshiping other gods, as soon as they heard the name of the one true God, they had fear and they had reverence for him. And they said, oh no, we messed with the wrong one today. Then they said unto him, what shall we do unto thee that the sea may be calm unto us? For the sea wrought and was tempestuous. Verse 12, and he said unto them, take me up and cast me forth into the sea. So shall the sea be calm unto you. For I know that for my sake this great tempest is upon you. So Jonah knows that it's his fault. They know that it's his fault. I think what that ties to, that verse 12, he says, cast me into the sea because it's my fault that you're going through this trouble. I think that kind of ties to like casting out evil, casting out foolishness. Don't suffer a fool. You don't want to interact and be around foolish people. You got to separate yourself from that. You got to get away from that because they're going to bring you down. And I think that's kind of what I get from that. He says, I'm the problem here. Get rid of me and it'll be okay. And remember the power of God. Nevertheless, the men rowed hard to bring it to the land, but they could not, for the sea wrought and was tempestuous against them. Wherefore they cried unto the Lord and said, We beseech thee, O Lord, we beseech thee, let us not perish for this man's life, and lay not upon us innocent blood. For thou, O Lord, hast done as it pleased thee. So they took Jonah and cast him forth into the sea, and the sea ceased from her raging. Instantly the sea calmed down when they threw Jonah in. Verse 16, then the men feared the Lord exceedingly and offered a sacrifice unto the Lord and made vows. So it all works for the glory of God. It all works for the glory of God. After they saw this, they saw God's power and they feared him. Once you see God's power, you cannot deny him. There is no choice. Once you see it to be true and you know it to be true, there is no turning back. There is no backsliding. You're locked in because you've seen the power of God. Now the Lord had prepared a great fish to swallow up Jonah, and Jonah was in the belly of the fish for 3 days and 3 nights. You can compare this with Jesus when he went down to Sheol after he died. He went down to Sheol for 3 days and 3 nights. And I believe in the New Testament, do I have the verse? No, I don't have the verse pulled up, but he actually references Jonah when he talks about, I think it's in every gospel. After Jesus died, he went down to Sheol, the heart of the earth, to defeat Satan. And they compare it to Jonah being in the belly of the whale for 3 days and 3 nights. So nice little imagery there. Now this is chapter 2. So remember, this is chapter 2. This was written by an anonymous author centuries after Jonah lived, right? 2 to 4 centuries later. So this person was not in the belly of the whale with Jonah. They're writing a poem that's inspired by God to inspire other people who read about this story. So this may not be verbatim, word for word, what Jonah was saying in the belly of the whale, because the person who wrote Jonah wasn't there with him. This is a poem. It's a poetry. It's not meant to be taken literally. It's meant to be taken for its meaning, its value, and what it's saying. The purpose of it is literal and it's truth. But as I'm about to show you, not everything in this should be taken literally, okay? Then Jonah prayed unto the Lord his God out of the fish's belly. So that's the narrative. Now we're going to get into the poetic. And said, I cried by the reason of mine affliction unto the Lord, and he heard me. Out of the belly of hell I cried, and thou heardest my voice. For thou hast cast me into the deep, in the midst of the seas, and the floods compassed me about. All thy billows and all thy waves passed over me. Then I said, I am cast out of thy sight, yet I will look again toward thy holy temple. The waters compassed me about, even to the soul. The depth closed me round about. The weeds were wrapped about my head. So here's one of those verses. I went down to the bottoms of the mountains, and the earth with her bars was about me forever. That's a metaphor. There's not actual physical bars on earth. What this metaphor is trying to say is that Satan owns the world, right? God gave Satan dominion over the earth. And until God sets us free, this world is a prison. We're supposed to be in the world, but not of the world. We're supposed to be free from that prison. The world is our prison. It's Satan's prison, and he has us imprisoned. He has us in chains. He has us behind bars. It's not actually physically bars. There's not really physical bars there. So you can't take that literally. It's metaphorical. I just got to point that out because a lot of Christians will say that the Bible is supposed to be taken literally, but it's not. You have to know how to read it. You have to know what's poetry, what's metaphor, what's a parable. You have to know how to read it properly and rightly discern the scriptures to know what's literal and what's metaphorically. There's not actual bars in the fish's belly or bars around the world, but it's Satan's prison that he has us in that God frees us from. Okay. Yet hast thou brought up my life from the corruption, O Lord my God? When my soul fainted within me, I remembered the Lord, and my prayer came in unto thee, into thine holy temple. They that observe lying vanities forsake their own mercy. I highlighted that because that's deep. It sounds deep, but I don't even know if I understand it. Like, they that observe lying vanities, like money, like wealth, like your cars, your clothes, your friends, these are lying vanities that you take. Forsake their own mercy. So I've said before that mercy is only God's, but those that observe lying vanities forsake their own mercies. So I'm not even going to expound on that. It sounds really deep, but I haven't even, I can't even interpret that for you guys. I'm not going to try to interpret it. I think it's saying forsake their own mercy. Those that observe lying vanities forsake their own mercy. I understand the observing lying vanities, but what does he mean by forsake their own mercy? What do you guys think in chat? Let me know. Matthew 12:40, I think, is what you're referring to. In, but not of, 100%. I can relate to that. But yeah, I think that verse is super deep because man, it just, now there's another sentence here later on that I think kind of ties in with it. So verse 8 says, but they observe lying vanities. But they that observe lying vanities forsake their own mercy. But I will sacrifice unto thee with my voice of thanksgiving. I will pray that I have vowed. Salvation is of the Lord. So maybe it's saying that people think that these worldly things and these fake vanities that they have, pride and all these things, these fake vanities will save them, but that's not going to save you. That's forsaking your own mercy because you don't actually have mercy. Mercy is God's to give. You need to give it all to God and sacrifice unto him with a voice of thanksgiving and realize that salvation is of the Lord. You can't save yourself by buying nice things. You can't save yourself by having more friends and having a big house and all these things. I think that's what it's trying to say. We got more pictures. We got pictures. We got to be scrolling through these pictures as we get to chapter 3. Because here's the ship at sea, tempestuous waters. I'm supposed to be going through these pictures as I was reading, but I'm not that good at multitasking. Don't have mercy for yourself. Save that for others and know this is a bad journey to where we are headed. Nice. I like that. I like that. That's cool. Nice. Tempestuous sea. He gets thrown in. He's cast into the sea. Here come that whale. Oh, that whale gonna eat him up. Dang. Jonah, you should not have tried to run from God. That was
Beta.
That was beta. Now you got a dang whale coming after you. Jonah, some old art. Jonah getting eaten by the whale. Now this is actually when Jonah is spewed out by the whale, which we're about to get to in chapter 3. And the word of the Lord came unto Jonah the second time, saying, Arise. Oh, wait. Sorry. I skipped verse 10. So after salvation is of the Lord, when Jonah realizes that, in verse 10, and the Lord spake unto the fish, and it vomited out Jonah upon the dry land. So this is the fish vomiting out Jonah upon the dry land. There he is, getting spit out onto the dry land. You know, it's in sculptures. It's in ancient sculptures throughout history. Some more. Jonah getting spit out upon the dry land. And another one. And another one. So now they spit onto the dry land. We go to chapter 3. And the word of the Lord came unto Jonah the second time, saying, Arise, go unto Nineveh, that great city, and preach unto it the preaching that I bid thee. So Jonah arose. He's not gonna run from God this time. He learned his lesson. Maybe he learned his lesson. Here he is, spit onto dry land. So Jonah arose and went unto Nineveh according to the word of the Lord. Now Nineveh was an exceedingly great city, a 3 days' journey. And Jonah began to enter into the city a day's journey, and he cried and said, Yet 40 days, and Nineveh shall be overthrown. So he goes in, he says, Hey, you guys are going to be overthrown in 40 days if you don't tighten up. God's wrath is going to be poured out on you. You've been wicked. You've been living in your wickedness. And God repeats his order. Nineveh listens and repents. So Nineveh hears him and repents in verse 5. So the people of Nineveh believed God and proclaimed a fast and put on sackcloth, from the greatest of them even to the least of them. For word came unto the king of Nineveh, and he arose from his throne, and he laid his robe from him, and covered him with sackcloth and sat in ashes. And he caused it to be proclaimed and published through Nineveh by the decree of the king and his nobles, saying, let neither man nor beast, herd nor flock taste anything. Let them not feed nor drink water. So they're fasting, they're putting on the sackcloth, they're praying because they realize God's angry with us. We got to tighten up. And they had 40 days to fix it. But turns out they still do get still get sacked eventually, but not for a couple hundred years later. Um, Here's another picture of Jonah getting spit out by the whale. So that's all the images I got. I got one more little article once we get to the next part here. Because Jonah is hard-headed. A lot of guys in the Bible are hard-headed. That's something you'll find out. They don't, a lot of times, and I see this in my own life. Like, I went to Christian school when I was a kid, and I'm grateful that my parents put me in Christian school because that's where I got a lot of my Bible knowledge and my foundation. But I went to church, I got baptized, I would pray every night, I would go down to the altar, I would sing in the choir on Wednesday. But as I got older, it was like I was just going to church to meet girls, I guess I should say, because I was still a kid, still a teenager. But I'm going to church to meet girls, and I'm going to church, and I'm leaving the church with my friend, and we're going out in the woods and smoking potheads. And I fell away from God. And I would go to jail. I would get locked up. I would go to jail. And then I'd go to jail and I'd get back into the Bible, get back into praying, be a jailhouse preacher, sitting at the table with all the guys preaching and stuff like that, and taking courses on the Bible and getting my certifications and my gold leaf Bible for completing the classes and all this other stuff. Then I get out of church and I got baptized and I'm going to church and I'm working with the youth group. Guess what? Backslid again. But I won't say backslid. I don't like that. I don't like that expression. I was hard-headed. And I don't know if going through all those motions and listening to the preacher in the pulpit and reading the Bible, I don't know if I don't believe that I was truly born again. I think I am now. I do believe I am now. And that's not something that I really saw. I probably would have told you then that I was, but then I would have been getting into mess. And now I strive to better myself every day and not do those things. And I see those things and I don't want to be part of it anymore. Like, I still smoke cigarettes. I'm trying to quit though. I'll have a beer every now and then, but I used to drink half a gallon of vodka every day. I used to do all the drugs under the sun. I used to sleep with anybody I could sleep with. And I'm working to stay away from those things and better myself. But it takes time. Maybe I was born again when I was young, but I needed to be like the prodigal son. I needed to be like Jonah. I needed to suffer a little bit. I needed to suffer a little more before God really started working in my life. But you see this throughout the Bible. There's a lot of hard-headed dudes in the Bible because Jonah's one of them. So let's get back to Nineveh. But verse 8, after their fasting, but let man and beast be covered with sackcloth and cry mightily unto God. Yea, let them turn every one from his evil way and from violence that is in their hands. Who can tell if God will turn and repent and turn away from his fierce anger, that we perish not? And God saw their works. This is verse 10. And God saw their works, that they turned from their evil way, and God repented of the evil that he had said that he would do unto them, and he did it not. If you repent from your wicked ways, God will repent from the punishment that you deserve. We deserve punishment. The wages of sin is death. We all deserve death. We all deserve hell. And it's not God punishing us. It's us not following him. We're following Satan instead. We follow Satan. We follow evil. We justify, we call good evil and evil good. We justify wrong and we call it right. And he gives us over to a reprobate mind. And once you've been given over to a reprobate mind, there ain't no coming back. There ain't no Bible verse. There ain't no preacher. That means God knows that you are never going to come to him. And he gives you over to a reprobate mind. And that's when you just become a degenerate. There's no recovering from that. Ain't no coming back from that. If you do come back from that, then you were never actually given over to a reprobate mind, because God knew one day you would find him. But those that have been given over to a reprobate mind, God already knows they ain't coming to him. They ain't coming back. And God saw their works, that they turned from their evil way, and God repented of the evil that he had said that he would do unto them, and he did it not. What do I have wrote down for chapter 10 or verse 10? I didn't write anything for that. Okay. Now we're on the last chapter, chapter 4. Chapter 4 gets interesting. Chapter 4, we see how hard-headed Jonah is. And let me just tell you, I was hard-headed too. Nice. Nice. Some of us got to suffer. Some people, it's easy for them, you know? They don't have to suffer. They don't have to go through all this pain and struggle and live in the dark side. They don't have to go through hell to get to heaven. Some people, you know, and I think it comes down to parenting. It comes down to if your parents are perfect. When I say the word perfect, I mean righteous. I mean covered by the blood of Jesus. I do believe we can be perfect. I do believe we're commanded to be perfect. When people say no man is perfect, I don't think any man is good, only God is good, because that's what Jesus said. But Jesus also said, be perfect as my Father is perfect. So we're commanded to be perfect, and Jesus isn't some mean trickster who's going to tell you to do something that isn't possible to do. So I hear a lot of Christians that will say, nobody's perfect, nobody can be perfect, we'll never be perfect. It's like, so what? Jesus was just setting us up for failure? Perfect means righteous. And when you're born again, Jesus' righteousness suffices to cover your unrighteousness. Your works are as filthy rags. They're not worth anything. You can't work your way into heaven. There's nothing you can do that's good enough. But when you're born again and you're covered by the blood of Jesus, you are righteous. You are perfect. We are perfect. We're told to be perfect. Amen, Nell and Ray. My dad, 71, now was 10 years old in coma, fell 2 stories onto concrete. His story even today. He spent 2 weeks with Jesus and got the choice to come back. Just believe first, the rest flows right in. Dang. So he said why he was in a coma, he had like a experience like that. That's wild. I've done near death experience. I did a near death experience show and miracles. I did a miracle episode once talking about real life miracles, because you'll hear people like Faux Rogan saying, "Oh, you believe in zombie Jesus who rose from the dead?" Bro, there are medical miracles that happen all the time. People rise from the dead. People die and they come back from death. Like, it's not, and you think the Son of God can't do it? If people do it in a hospital, if a doctor can bring somebody back to life with a dang clear machine, you don't think Jesus could do it? Crazy. Chapter 4, the last chapter. This chapter gets kind of interesting. And I think this book of Jonah is made, it's written well, I don't want to spoil it. So let's get to it. I won't spoil it. Chapter 4. But it displeased Jonah exceedingly. He was very angry. Jonah got angry at God. He's hard-headed. He got angry at God. Why? Because God forgave Nineveh. Because God forgives. Jonah said, wait, they're wicked. They deserve punishment. You're supposed to punish them, God. I'm angry at you. I just had a coffee burp. Sorry, in the middle of that. He's angry at God because God didn't punish Nineveh. And he prayed unto the Lord and said, I pray thee, O Lord, was not this my saying when I was yet in my country? Therefore I fled before unto Tarshish, for I knew that thou art a gracious God and merciful, slow to anger, and of great kindness, and repentest thee of evil. Therefore now, O Lord, take, I beseech thee, my life from me, for it is better for me to die than to live. Jesus is angry at God, saying, why didn't you punish them? You're supposed to punish them for being wicked. You punished me when I ran from you. Why aren't you punishing them? Might as well just take my life from me. Might as well just end it here because I'm not worthy. That's what he said. Sorry. Yeah, Jonah is angry that God does not punish him. And then in verse 4, then said the Lord, doest thou well to be angry? Is it smart for you to be angry right now? Why are you angry, Jonah? Is it wise to be angry? God said, Jonah, why is it doest thou well to be angry? Why are you angry? Is that doing you any good? Is it helping you to be angry? Does that make you feel better, Jonah? God's poking at Jonah. So Jonah went out of the city and sat on the east side of the city, and there made him a booth and sat under it in the shadow till he might see what would become of the city. So he's like hoping that the city's going to be destroyed. He's like, they deserve to be destroyed. God's not destroying them. He's angry at God. Why'd you punish me, God, but you're not punishing Nineveh? Why'd you put me in the belly of the whale, but you're not sending them to the belly of the whale? What the heck, God? God's saying, is it smart for you to be angry right now, Jonah? What are you doing? What are you doing, Jonah? Jonah goes to pout. Jonah goes to pout like a angry child, which is what God is the father. Jonah is the angry little child. He goes out to pout. So verse 6, it gets interesting. And the Lord God prepared a gourd and made it to come up over Jonah, that it might be a shadow over his head to deliver him from his grief. So Jonah was exceedingly glad of the gourd. So God makes a gourd. God makes a gourd. You might be saying, well, what's a gourd, Josh? What does he mean by a gourd? When I think of a gourd, I think of a cantaloupe or a pumpkin. So this is a gourd, also known as a castor oil plant or a palma Christi. The Hebrew word is kikojon. Kikojon or kikayon or mazul. The Arabic word is karub. So God basically grows a plant to give Jonah shade and cover him. And Jonah's happy. He's like, yo, God put a dang plant over my head to give me some shade. Nice. And here's the gourd. But then what happens with the gourd? In the next verse, verse 7, God prepared a worm when the morning rose the next day, and it smote the gourd that it withered. So God sent basically a parasite to eat the plant. So God don't play. Don't play with God, or else God's going to play with you. You run from God, he's going to put you in the belly of the whale. You go and hide and pout because you're mad at God, he's going to be like, hey, oh, let me cover you with some shade, poor baby. And then the next day, he's going to send a parasite, a worm, that's going to eat the plant. And it eats the plant, and the plant withers and dies. God has a great sense of humor. I love it. I love it. This is how you father. This is how you father. Your kid's pouting. Be like, hey, bud, don't pout. And then push them. Push them into the pool. Okay, maybe don't do that. Maybe don't do that. Spare the rod, spoil the child. Pat them, make them feel better, and then say, now come bend down over my knee and take your belt off. That's what God does. That's what the Father does. Okay. So there's the gourd, and then the gourd, he sends the worm to eat the gourd. And it came to pass when the sun did arise that God prepared a vehement east wind, and the sun beat upon the head of Jonah, that he fainted and wished in himself to die, and said, it is better for me to die than to live. So he's pouting. God grows up the plant, covers him up with some shade. But then God sends the worm, eats the plant. He sends a wind, and he sends sun beating down on Jonah. And he says, now you're getting spanked. I was nice to you. I said, hey, calm down, buddy. Hey, let me send this. Let me cover you up. Okay, calm down, buddy. But then once you got happy and you're like, oh, yeah, everything's good. Then he said, hey, time for a spanking. Time for me to take off that belt. And now he wishes he was dead again. So here it is. This is the deep ending, verses 9 through 11. I'm going to read it all through, and then we're going to go through and break it down, because this is probably the most important part of it. Okay. So verse 9, and God said to Jonah, doest thou well to be angry for the gourd? And he said, I do well to be angry even unto death. God. Then the Lord said, thou hast had pity on the gourd, for which thou hast not labored, neither madest it grow, which came up in the night and perished in a night. And should I not spare Nineveh, that great city, wherein are more than 600,000 persons that cannot discern between their right hand and their left hand, and also much of cattle? The end. It ends with a cliffhanger ending. It ends with a question from God to Jonah. Jonah's answer is never given. The reason for this is because we're supposed to read that, and then we're supposed to examine it in our own light, or in our own life. God says to Jonah, doest thou well to be angry? And he says, I do well to be angry even until I die. And God said, you had pity on the gourd. Basically, he said, you were mad about the gourd that you didn't grow. You didn't grow that gourd. I grew that gourd. And then the gourd died. And then you're mad because the gourd died. Or you were happy, you took pleasure in the gourd that you didn't do any work to grow. And then you got mad because the gourd went away. You didn't send the worm. You had nothing to do with what happened with that gourd, but it was changing your emotions and it was changing the way you felt about things. You got happy when it grew, but you didn't do any work to grow it. I grew it. You got sad when it went away, but you didn't do anything to take it away. I took it away. It's like when people, you know, they they come into some money, or they get successful in life, and they blow up, they get rich. You see this all the time with like celebrities. They'll get rich, like an athlete. Let's talk about like a football player. A football player is talented. He's strong, he's fast. He gets rich. He gets rich really quick. And then he gets hit and he gets a concussion, he gets taken off the league and he loses everything. He didn't give himself those talents. Maybe he worked out at the gym, but God gave him those genes. God gave him that destiny. God gave him that life to become rich and to get all those things. He had no right taking pride in what God did for him. You shouldn't take pride in the good things that God gives to you. And you shouldn't be angry when bad things happen to you at God. That's just part of life. It's the same as the story of Job. When Satan was taking everything from Job and he started cursing, he didn't want to curse God, but finally he does. He breaks down and he says, why, God? Why? And God says, who are you to ask me why? Do you make the eagle eat the fish? Do you hang the stars in the sky? No. You're asking a question to your father that is out of your pay grade, buddy. You need to calm down. You need to be grateful for what you have and be grateful for what you don't have. Be grateful for the struggles that you have in life. What's the expression? Um, struggles work as something in your life. Pain works as a blessing in your life, something like that. There's a better, nicer way to put it, but I forget. You were great at explaining these stories. Thank you, Nell and Ray. So don't take pride in your victories. Thank God for it. Don't be mad when things bad go bad in your life. Don't get mad at God and get grumpy and get all booty hurt and go hide from God and pout about it. Be grateful for your suffering, because it's all works for the glory of God, and it all works in the end if you follow him. So then the Lord said, thou hast had pity on the gourd for which thou hast not labored, neither madest grow, which came up in the night and perished in the night. And should not I spare Nineveh, the great city, wherein there are more than 6,000 people that cannot discern between their right hand and their left, and also much cattle? He's saying, should I not have pity on these people that don't know right from wrong? They don't know any better. They know not what they do. Jonah, what do you want me to just wipe them out? You knew better. You knew better and you disobeyed me, so I punished you. But they don't know any better. You came and you told them, and they broke down and they repented of their ways. So I'm going to forgive them. I'm going to give them another chance. You don't make these decisions, Jonah. I make these decisions. And so it's left as a cliffhanger ending. It's important that it's left open-ended. It's left as a question. And the answer is never given, because you're supposed to examine this and answer the question on your own. Now, I just gave you my answer. You can come up with your own answer. If you think I'm right, if you think I'm wrong, that's fine. But I wrote, it's important. Do not be angry when you lose what God made. Do not wish harm on people who don't know any better. The cliffhanger is the purpose. The cliffhanger is for the purpose of self-reflection. That's what I wrote. So that's what I got. That's the story of Jonah, broken down. Glad I stayed too. Same here. Thank you for sharing. Yes, this message though, absolutely amazing. Thank you guys. Thank you. Give the glory to God. I'm just talking. But I do have a bonus story. We're not just doing Jonah. We're doing one more, just a short one to wrap the show up. A bonus story. So we compared the 3 days and 3 nights that Jonah was in the belly of the whale with the 3 days and 3 nights that Jesus was in Sheol. So we did a comparison. Let's do a contrast. Let's do a contrast between what happens when you run from God. Jonah ran from God and he went down to the belly of the whale, and then he got angry at God, and he got the gourd grew and then withered, and then the storm came in. Let's do a contrast. Instead of what happens when you run from God, let's see what happens when you run towards God. So I'm going to skip to not one of my favorite stories in the Bible, but an interesting story in the Bible that I always loved because of a song from when I was a kid in Christian school that I'm going to sing for you now. It goes a little something like this. Zacchaeus was a wee little man, because a wee little man was he. He climbed up in a sycamore tree for the Lord he wanted to see. And the Lord came and he said, Zacchaeus, you come down, because I'm going to your house today. Because I'm going to your house today. Okay, sorry about that. I'm not a great singer, but that was always a fun song we would sing in like Sunday school and in Christian school. And it's fun because when he says, Zacchaeus, you come down, everybody in the class would stand up and say, you come down, and just yell it. It was so loud. Zacchaeus, the wee little man, he was a midget. Is that politically correct? I don't know if I'm allowed to say that. I think I can say it on Rumble, but he was a midget. Zacchaeus was a wee little man, like Tyrion from Game of Thrones. Zacchaeus was a tax collector, and he persecuted Christians, just like Saul, who became Paul. Now, this is a contrast. Jonah was a follower of God, but when he disobeyed God and he ran from God, he got punished for it. In contrast, I'm going to read Zacchaeus, the story of Zacchaeus from Luke 19. We're going to go 1 through 10. And I'm going to show you what happens when, even if you're a wrongdoer and you're living wrong in life, when you repent and you run towards God, he blesses you. So this is the story of the wee little man Zacchaeus, who climbed up in the sycamore tree. And Jesus entered and passed through Jericho. And behold, there was a man named Zacchaeus, which was the chief among the publicans, and he was rich. And he sought to see Jesus, who he was, and could not for the press, because it's dark in here. That light needs to be here. And behold, there was a man named Zacchaeus, which was the chief among the publicans, and he was rich. And he sought to see Jesus, who he was, and could not for the press, because he was little of stature. So there was too many people around. There was a big crowd of people, and Zacchaeus is a tiny little guy. He's a dwarf, and he can't see. He's trying to jump up over their shoulders. He's trying to climb on people, and he can't see Jesus. He just wants to see Jesus. And he's a rich man. He's a publican. You know, most of the people look down on him. They think he's a bad, evil man, but he wants to see Jesus. So he's trying to jump up over the crowd, but he can't see Jesus because he was short. And he ran before and climbed up into a sycamore tree to see him, for he was to pass that way. And when Jesus came to the place, he looked up and saw him and said unto him, Zacchaeus, make haste and come down, for today I must abide at thy house. Jesus sees him up in the tree and says, Zacchaeus, I'm going to your house today. Get out of that tree, man. We're going to your house, buddy. And he made haste and came down and received him joyfully. And when they saw it, they all murmured, saying that he was gone to be guest with a man that was a sinner. Why is Jesus going to hang out with the sinner? Why is he going to hang out with Zacchaeus? Doesn't he know that that's like a bad dude? Why is he going to Zacchaeus' house? Everybody's whispering, everybody's talking. Jesus shouldn't be going to hang out with Zacchaeus. Why doesn't he come hang out with me? But Zacchaeus was a sinner. But Zacchaeus went out of his way just to see Jesus. And Jesus saw him. And just said, yo, I'm coming to your house, homie. Let's go. And Zacchaeus hurried down the tree, skimming down the tree, and he ran with Jesus. They went to his house. And they murmured that he's a sinner. And Zacchaeus stood and said unto the Lord, Behold, Lord, the half of my goods I give to the poor. And if I have taken anything from any man by false accusation, I restore him fourfold. So Zacchaeus says, you know what? Jesus came to my house. My eyes are open. I'm giving half of all my riches to the poor. And anything I took from any of you people, and I thought you were lower than me, I'm going to give you 4 times what I took from you. And Jesus said unto him, This day is salvation come to this house, for so much as he also is a son of Abraham. We're all sons of Abraham. For the Son of Man is come to seek and to save that which is lost. Jesus said unto him, This day is salvation come to this house, for so much as he is also a son of Abraham. For the Son of Man is come to seek and to save that which is lost. Zacchaeus was lost. But Zacchaeus ran towards Jesus, and he was blessed, and he was made right. He was saved by Jesus. Jesus said, and the people might whisper, the people might look down at Jesus and say, why is he hanging out with that sinner? Jesus said, I'm trying to save the ones who are lost. I'm trying to get the one sheep, not the 99. It's a small, narrow road, and most people aren't going to find it. And Jesus is looking for the ones who are going to find that road. He's not looking for everybody else. And Jonah ran from God. Jonah got punished. Zacchaeus ran towards God, towards Jesus, and he got blessed for it. The end. The end. It's over. The nukes are coming. Oh no. Hey guys, thank you for checking out this clip from the Dreaded Conservative Show every Monday night, 5 p.m. Pacific time, 8 p.m. Eastern time. If you guys like the video, please give it a thumbs up. Make sure you subscribe to the channel if you haven't subscribed yet. Hit the bell so you know whenever I go live, not just for the Dreaded Conservative Show, but for all the game streams and UFC streams and other fun stuff that we do throughout the week. And make sure you comment and share this video with a friend. But until next time, I got a video, I got a playlist. You guys can check those out, but I'm out. Peace.